Hello, my friends. I invite you to a new episode about Karl Brandt. The title, The Doctor Behind Hitler's Euthanasia Orders. Euthanasia is difficult to pronounce it. Yes, it is about the Euthanasia T4 program, and there were a director behind this program, and his name was Karl Brandt. He was the doctor. And like an introduction about Karl Brandt, he was one of the young members of the Nazi Party. He was born in 94, so he was quite younger than Adolf Hitler himself. He was like the young guy, like Albert Speer, for example. And Albert Speer was, I think, even a year younger. He was one of the young and beautiful generation, maybe in a sort of idealistic. We can speak about the idealistic type of Nazi, maybe with a more human touch. And like Albert Speer, they entitled him like the good Nazi and so on. And we have the more psychopathic murderer on the other side. So we have the two types, the more idealistic one, and maybe Karl Brandt was seen more like Albert Speer, more like this idealistic. But both Albert Speer and Karl Brandt also are responsible for the deaths of a lot of people. So both also Albert Speer succeeded after the war at the Nuremberg trial to deny these things and to get out and to survive with 20 years of prison. But Karl Brandt not. He was convicted to death at the end. Yeah, he was one of the young and beautiful. As I said, he had also a wife who was young and beautiful and successful. It's also like about the successful one. She was even a very good swimmer and set several German swimming records, his wife Annie, and she won even a bronze medal at the European Championships in swimming in Bologna in 1927. So she was also known as young and beautiful, successful woman. And they wanted to be part of the, call it of the gang of the people who have the power. And that was after 1933, it was the Nazi Party. Let's some words about his early life of Karl Brandt. Karl Brandt was that interesting, born on 8 January 94. Okay, that's not interesting, but the interesting is where he was born. He was born in Mühlhausen, or Mühlhaus. Today it's in France, in Alsace-Lorraine, in Alsace. This is a former German part of the empire. It's a part of the empire that was once part of the French and once part of the German. It changed sides in 1871 when the German won the war against the French. Then the German get this Alsace-Lorraine and expanded. And after World War I, this part of Germany, the Alsace-Lorraine, get back to France. But it was a mainly German-speaking population there, and he was son of one officer of the Prussian army, Karl Julius Brandt, and so they were quite maybe not maybe nationalists. I don't know if nationalist is the right word, but they were made like really German feeling family, and they didn't want to live under the new French administration. The new French administration, after the Treaty of Versailles in 1918, with the Treaty of Versailles, this terrain was returned France, many ethnically German families, like the Brandts in Alsace, were suddenly French citizens, and the French were trying to re-French these people. They're trying to make this terrain again French, and this included changes in language, schooling, public life, and so on. And many German feeling with a strong German identity, like his father as a Prussian officer, they didn't want it to live under the French rule, so they left French Alsace and settled to German proper. This move was part of a broader migration of pro-German Alsatians who did not want to live under French rule. Brandt was then back, still a teenager at this time. He he was 14 years old or something. But it's for to be 14 years, 15 years old. It's a very difficult time for somebody young, and it's a time where you choose your identity also and your political views, and it also was the case of Karl Brandt. So after, maybe it also shaped his nationalistic worldview later in life. After his family left Alsace in 1919, so after World War I, Karl Brandt completed his Abitur in Dresden. So he finished his secondary school, his Gymnasium, and it's a prestigious secondary school qualification in Germany. And with this qualification, you can enter university. It's still today the Abitur. Yeah, the Abitur, it's a classical gymnasium, classical secondary school where you are classically learning also Latin and Greek, classical human things, humanistic things. Then followed the medical studies in Dresden. So he began his studies at universities, at different universities in Dresden, Jena, Berlin, Munich, and until 1925 he was on different university, and then he was moving to Freiburg im Breisgau. He studied with prominent figures in medical field, so in this German type, in this German history section. Ludwig Aschoff, Erich Lexer, and Alfred Kocher are some names. Yeah, these names like Ludwig Aschoff, Erich Lexer, surgeon, Ludwig Aschoff, pathologist, Alfred Kocher, psychiatrist, and also an euthanasia advocate. There were also connection with with the Nazi ideology. Also, some of these figures, prominent medical figures, gave credibility also to the so-called Nazi medical structures. So there were some, we can also say that some of the teachers of Karl Brandt were involved in the later medical development. But euthanasia was not finding or an invention of the Nazi regime. Euthanasia was broadly accepted also in the US, also in the United Kingdom, and also in the Weimar Republic. So it was definitely not an invention of the Nazi regime, but in practice it was like practicized on this level, like murdering systematically. That was the Nazi thing. Yes, he became, like Karl Brandt, became a medical doctor and surgeon in 1928, specializing in head and spinal injuries. Then his followed doctoral dissertation. In 1929, Brandt earned his doctoral dissertation under the pediatrician Karl Noverath at Freiburg. So Freiburg was his last station university-wise. Some reflections on Brandt's youth. Brandt's early path reveals a driven, academically gifted individual, raised in a disciplined, military oriented household. He excelled in education and medicine. His ambition was not clear at the beginning, so we didn't know where he will head. Just through his surgical training, but also in his desire to contribute abroad with figures like Albert Schweitzer. So that's interesting that Karl Brandt had also some idealistic dreams like helping other people, and that he is not alone with that. It was also, for example, Hans Frank wrote in his memoirs that also he as a student had the idea of helping, for example, helping the refugees from Russia, or also Hannah Reich, the pilot of Adolf Hitler. She also wanted to help as a doctor, as a flying doctor in Africa. And also Karl Brandt, had the idea to join some humanitarian humanitarian program in Africa in order to help. So this is interesting that these maybe later like murder, like known murders, were in his youth like idealistic and also humanistic driven people. Albert Schweitzer, he was a French-German physician, theologian, humanitarian, and also pacifist. He was from the same region as Karl Brandt, from the Alsace region. And he ran a jungle hospital in Lambaréné, now Gabon. And there it is reportedly, we have report that Karl Brandt wanted to join in the early 1930s this project of Schweitzer. But this never materialized, like due to Brandt's obligation in Germany and also the lack of the French citizenships. And Albert Schweitzer he was not a Jew, for example. That was not the problem. And Albert Schweitzer was also not involved with the Nazi ideologies. He opposed the Nazi racial ideology, we can say. He had also criticism on that because he was in the first place like a man of a strong Christian background. So was he a Christian ethicist, and so he was against this. So later, Karl Brandt joining the Nazis could not go on with the plans to join Albert Schweitzer. That's quite clear. That's about his motivation as maybe like idealistic motivation in his youth. Now let's see about the politics, like he get in touch with the politics. His family, as I said, had strong German nationalist outlooks for leaving Alsace, and this made him sympathetic for right-wing politics views. We can imagine that this was his background. Brandt married Annie Reborn, an Olympic level swimmer, as I said, and she that was also a thing that helped him to join Hitler's inner circle, to get in touch with Albert Speer and people who are close to Adolf Hitler. He joined the Nazi Party in January 1932 and first met Hitler in the summer of the same year. In 1932, he treated one of Hitler's aides after an accident and impressed the Führer with his skill and composure. What happened exactly? Exactly happened that at that time, 1932, Brandt was an assistant physician at the University Surgical Clinic in Berlin.